is up, everybody? It is your boy Lou Martinez, aka Big Chief Burrito, here live on a Tuesday. Fireside chats with Big Chief Burrito. As you can tell, it's the middle of November. This is what I look like about 11 days into No Shave November, which reminds me every year why I don't grow a beard. But irregardless, it's now in the dictionary. Look it up. The show must go on. Hopefully, guys, everybody is safe. Hopefully, you guys are not too worried about the fact that we're having an election and a coup at the same time. Kind of weird. Good time to be alive. But, like I said, we got to talk about stuff that's interesting. We got Shy Girl in the background sleeping today. We got the new setup. The fireplace is not quite yet going. I did turn it on a couple of days ago, but hopefully we'll have some fireside chats with fire. And today we're going to be talking about, and obviously I like to gain knowledge and talk to interesting people and talk about stuff that, normally people don't want to talk about. So today we're going to talk about limb difference and the representation of people that are differently abled or disabled in popular culture, comics, movies, etc. Somebody that, and also what happens when somebody that sort of goes viral. I had a friend, actress, collaborator, Mandy Pursley, that had an event at Comic-Con that where she took some pictures that went viral because of the fact she sort of came up with a new twist on the Cinderella character. Instead of the glass slipper, it was the glass arm. And she's going to talk to us about her experiences going viral, about the representation of people that have lived differences, the witches controversy, and anything else that sort of drops on our plate today. So let me play a couple of clips so you guys know who I'm talking about. You might have seen her on this show. Who's Kelly Clarkson? And here's the clip.
My next guest brought a fairy tale to life in a uniquely personal way by dressing as Cinderella with one major difference. Her name is Mandy Pursley, and she was born without a right forearm. So as you can see, she wore a glass prosthetic instead of a glass slipper. She's here with us right now. Hi, Mandy.
Hi.
I love you. It's such a cool thing you did.
Thank you.
What inspired this photo shoot?
Well, it all started when my daughter was studying Cinderella stories at school last year. And there's all these really beautiful adaptations from around the world, but I realized there were still no princesses who looked like me, who had some kind of physical difference.
Yeah.
And that's a character that would have been really meaningful to me as a child.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, if she didn't exist, I'm gonna create her.
You can invent it.
Yeah.
I love it. And you actually made all the outfits, right?
I did, yeah.
Not only yours, but your husband's.
I did, yeah. I'm a seamstress, so in true Cinderella fashion.
I was like, wow, you're actually Cinderella.
So, real life Cinderella, Mandy Pursley.
Hi.
Hey, good to see you.
You too.
How's the East Coast treating you?
It's pretty good. It's been kind of like rainy, but I never saw rain in California, and then I get out here and it's rained like every day. So I'm adjusting to that, but it's good.
You're gonna get all the seasons out there, right?
I know. I'm kind of looking forward to like fall and snow. It's been a while.
How nervous were you? You're right next to Kelly Clarkson, the Fonz. Watching yourself now again, obviously you've seen that clip a million times, but you still got the same sort of feelings, nervousness, anything like that coming back?
Yeah, honestly, it still feels so surreal, the whole experience, even watching it now. I was actually more nervous, I think, about Henry Winkler than Kelly Clarkson.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Kelly Clarkson, she's just so sweet, and she was just so welcoming. Like, I felt like we could have been BFFs in like another lifetime. But like the Fonz, he's like a legend.
Yes,
so to sit by him was kind of like, I was a little starstruck.
The story is that you were all ready to go to the Comic-Con ball. It's a fairy tale in of itself.
Mm-hmm.
You get sick and you basically shut it down. You take some pictures, but you decide, I don't even want to share this experience because of, it was soured. But then you hear about somebody that has a limb difference and what makes you make the choice to sort of release those?
Yeah, well, I was so disappointed about Comic-Con because when I made the costume, like, it was so meaningful to me, I think, personally, to have, a character that I would have loved to look up to when I was a kid. So, I literally was backstage at Comic-Con for their costume contest and, like, had to go to the hospital from backstage. It was awful, and I was so discouraged. But then my friend messaged me, and she was just, hey, so this little girl on my daughter's soccer team is also missing an arm. And I just think it would, kind of make her day to see somebody that she could look up to. And I was just kind of like, like these pictures aren't doing me any good. And I didn't get to share them the way that I wanted to share them. But I think it's better. I don't know. Maybe it's just supposed to make this one little girl happy. What do and yeah, it was a very unexpected response that came from it. It was so crazy.
And as it's going on, like, and it starts to sort of grow, is your phone like just blowing up with notifications? Is your battery getting drained? Like what is it like to realize that it's moving outside of your internal circle of friends into like the webosphere?
Yeah, it was really wild because, at first it was kind of slow. Some of my friends were sharing, but I went to sleep that night and I woke up the next morning and there was literally like 20,000 shares.
Wow.
And just thousands and thousands of comments. And honestly, it was crashing my computer. Like I wanted to respond to everybody and just be like, thank you for being so nice to me. This is amazing. And you're so sweet. But it was crashing my computer, like trying to go back and go through them. It was absolutely nuts. Like I would have to take breaks. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to respond to everybody for this hour. And then I got to go do something else. And then I'll come back and try again. So.
You have to pick which of your mentions you're going to respond to. And it's across all platforms, right? Because at that point, somebody shares it on Reddit. Somebody shares it on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, I tried to not go to Reddit because I didn't know how that was going to turn out. But on Facebook and Twitter, and it was crazy. It was all over the place. So it was hard to kind of keep up. I mean, things were being shared. I didn't even know. Somebody would tag me on Instagram, and I hadn't even seen that yet. So it was wild.
You have become the meme.
Apparently, yeah.
And
it's not a bad thing to become a meme for, I guess. At least you're a princess.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And also relevant to your story is we're talking to everybody on, I don't want to say it wrong, but it's the Marines' birthday. Is that what they call it? Or
yeah, today's the Marine Corps birthday. So happy birthday to all the Marines out there. My husband's one too. So
I got two friends. I got a bunch of friends that are Marines. And your husband, who's a Marine, does he get any crap from his other Marines about you dragging him into this photo shoot? Do they put the poster up in his bags, or how does that work?
I thought they were going to give him a lot more crap about it, but everyone's actually been really nice. I think they thought it was kind of cool. And, if your wife makes you do it, like what are you going to do? You just have to go along.
Absolutely. And just so everybody knows, we're talking here with Mandy Pursley. Her her page, or where you can follow her, and what she created after this, all the support started coming up, and when she realized there was a place and a need for representation in this area, and she created Be the Spark Cosplay. So everybody go find her. Is that Facebook, Instagram, across all platforms, basically? Yeah,
Facebook is my big one, but I post a lot of stuff on Instagram as well, and there's a little bit on YouTube and Twitter, but mostly on Facebook. So that's the best place.
And everybody that's watching, thank you for watching. Make sure you like us on Facebook.com/2mburrito. If you are watching us on Twitch, twitch.tv/2mburrito. The replays on YouTube, 2mburrito. And after we do the videos live, we always put up the podcast the next week on Podbean, Big Chief Burrito, Podbean.com. All right. So when you find out about this girl that's missing an arm, do you know numbers? Do you know how common this affliction is? In terms of how many people it happens to, or how prevalent it is?
I feel like I should know those numbers. I don't know exactly how many are congenital. I know there's about 2 million amputees in the United States. That does include accidents as well. But it's more common than you would think. I mean, there's Facebook groups out there that have just tens of thousands of people that are part of them. So there's more of us out there than I think some people realize.
Does your involvement with your husband in the military put you close to people that are amputees due to, accidents, wars, etc.? Have you connected with them in any meaningful way, or with their families or stuff like that?
Yeah, in some ways. I actually used to work for a job that did military training out in San Diego, where basically amputees like myself would come in and we would be casualties so that the medics and the infantry and other people could kind of practice treating a real life patient instead of just, a mannequin that's not really yelling at you or doing anything unusual.
Right.
So it was really awesome training. And there was a lot of military vets who had lost limbs in war or sometimes through accidents that were a part of that. And so it was really cool to get to talk to them and kind of hear their stories and just kind of like share life together in that way. It was a really good experience.
Not that a guy that just lost an arm or something in Iraq needs to have a princess with a crystal arm walk into the hospital, but, but more in terms of like, for their families or kids and stuff like that. I was wondering if you ever, did anything. I'm sure that you've thought about that, obviously, sort of like reaching out to people, organizations like that. So you go viral, it starts off, you start going on these shows, these radio shows. What was kind of like the what do you think the craziest environment other than being by the fonts, next to the fonts, was for you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Everything just feels so crazy. Like I was on the radio up in Seattle, which was just wild. They did like a whole segment on me that they played for like hours throughout the day, like little clips at a time. So that was really surreal to me that, not only did somebody want to hear my story, but they wanted to like play it all day long. That was crazy.
Right. All right, we got a comment here coming in from Janice. Janine Marie says, I'm glad you're bringing awareness of limb differences and other disabilities. Thank you for watching, Janine.
Thank you, Jenny.
And this is something that you were born with, right?
Yeah, I'm a congenital amputee, so I was born this way. They think it was probably from an amniotic band, which is where the amniotic sac that's kind of around the fetus. Sometimes little pieces of that can break loose and kind of wrap around limbs or even fingers or something, and it just kind of stops it from developing where it's at. So I've had a lot of years to figure out how to do things. So I really don't feel any different, I guess.
Did you have a time like growing up? Do you have a memory of the first time you did feel different, or did it never hit you like that when you were growing up?
Yeah, I actually had a really hard time when I was a kid. I think because I felt like the only one. I didn't know anybody else in person that had any kind of a limb difference. And even in the media, there was practically nobody. So I remember, there were a couple times when I was really young that we'd be out on the playground and, you'd be playing Ring Around the Rosies or something where you hold hands and kids would just be like, oh, like they didn't want to touch my arm or my prosthetic. And, that was painful that kids would have that response. And I think it's just because it was something they'd never seen before and they didn't know how to react to it either. So.
Obviously that's going to be something that's going to toughen you up early on, right?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, like I feel like as an adult, I'm able to deal with it.
Right.
But it was hard as a kid. It was lonely
absolutely.
sometimes.
Absolutely. Especially, the whole concept, it's weird that people are sort of waking up to the fact that representation matters in being able to see yourself, whether it's a little black girl seeing a vice president, or whether it's, somebody with a limb difference seeing somebody in cosplay. It's realize for me, it was, and I always tell this story, but LA Law back in the day had an actor called A. Martinez on. And I just remember seeing the credits of a major TV show, and my last name is Martinez. And I would just remember seeing A. Martinez, and I was like, A. Martinez, and like literally A. Martinez is on TV. I was like, wow, this is cool. And I didn't even watch the show. I just remember seeing that. But so it's weird that it's that as society, I don't know if it's getting more woke or what you call it, but there are definitely people being more aware of things like this and the importance of representation. The recent controversy about the movie Witches, where they basically made it seem like these witches were using these covers specifically because they had a limb difference and it was sort of punching down on a disability. Anne Hathaway came back out with a pretty intricately worded apology, but if from your perspective, is the damage already done there, or how do you feel about the entire situation?
It was really difficult to see that being portrayed on screen. I think they really kind of dropped the ball with that presentation. I think there's been some misperceptions about why people in the limb different community are upset. I think a lot of people are thinking that just because there was a character who was a bad guy that had a limb difference, that was the problem. But I think really the problem was that, like you said, they covered up their limb difference, first of all. And then when they revealed it, I think the movie wanted you to feel the sense of like shock and horror at the sight of a limb difference. And it was in a kid's movie to make it worse. And so I think that intention that they had, that it was bad and terrible, is what separated that from other characters who have limb differences who may still be bad guys. And so I felt like the studio, their statement was not great. I felt like they were kind of like, well, we're sorry you're offended. I hope everybody else likes the movie. So I was like, wow. But I felt like Anne Hathaway, I really appreciated that she genuinely listened to the concerns that people had. And she took, a moment to say, hey, I think we messed up on this. And she even wanted to kind of educate people about people with limb differences. Like she shared a video from the Lucky Finn Project that shows, people like me in a really positive way. And so I think that was a key point to say like, hey, this wasn't right. And let's learn about how we can do better. I do wish that they could maybe change the movie still in some way, because I felt like with all our CGI effects, like it would be really simple to just throw on some, I don't know, green scales or something that doesn't look human, and then it wouldn't be a problem. It was just how human they made the hands so that it really did look like the way that some people really look like, and that was the big issue with that.
We work on film, so we realize how long it takes from a movie to start to end, to edit, to finish. So you would have thought in 2020, somebody would have maybe been like, wait, what? We're okay. And then the joke is what? Oh, the joke is that no. It took a lot of people to say yes for that to even get on the screen. So
yeah, it's a blockbuster film. So they had a huge cast and crew. So yeah, it amazes me that everyone was like, we had no idea. We've never seen anybody with a limb difference.
All right, let me catch up on some comments here. We got Christopher saying you are a true inspiration.
Oh, thank you, Christopher.
Jenny also said, I had a friend whose sister lost fingers due to an amniotic band. You can call me Jenny. All right. Thank you for Jenny. Ellen Turner says she's watching. Thank you for watching. Oh, my God. Epic Evie showing up. What's up, Evie? Oh, my God. That Cinderella cosplay's fire. I'm living for this. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Share a couple more pictures here. All right. So you did all these outfits yourself because you are, like I said, a real life Cinderella. You are a seamstress. So these pictures are awesome. Like, what was the, how long did it take you to do this? How long were you like sewing these things together? Like from concept to pictures?
Quite a while. Cinderella's like ball gown, I probably spent like 50 or 60 hours on because there was a lot of like hand sewing on that one as well, with like the rhinestones and all the lace. And then Prince Charming was probably about 20 hours. And the peasant dress was easier because it didn't have to be fancy. So that was probably more like 10 to 15 hours.
These aren't getting a lot of play, but I think they're just as impressive in terms of the transformation of the character though, right?
Thank you. Yeah. And it actually is a transforming dress as well. Right. So, because originally it was meant for Comic-Con for a stage performance. And so I really wanted to have that wow factor that, she comes out in her peasant dress and then the fairy godmother waves her wand and she spins around and it's just bam, she's ready to go. So that kind of required some creativity and ingenuity to figure out how to put all that together.
Did you know all these techniques ahead of time, or was it something that you had to learn on the go, or?
Well, like I've sewn ball gowns before. So Cinderella, I basically knew how to put it together. It was just a lot of work, but I basically was making up how to do the transformation dress. I ended up using magnets to connect the two pieces together at the back so that it would just come right off in a really quick spin. But that was kind of trial and error trying to figure that out.
There you go. Little dog. Yeah, no. So you literally start as a peasant. You're on stage, you spin, and then it changes into Cinderella. I think. Did you send me that clip? Because I want to share. If not, I'm
I
sure.
think it was in that folder, yeah, that I sent
Okay.
you.
All right. I'll try to load it right now so we can watch it a little bit. Question from the audience here. Jenny says, "How hard is it to do the sewing with one hand?"
Oh man, that's so hard to answer because like I don't know how it is to sew with two hands.
Right.
But yeah, I use my feet a lot too. When I'm like hemming, especially along the bottom. So I actually use like both my toes to like hold it, and then I can pin and everything in the middle. So maybe I have an advantage. Maybe it's like using three hands. Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Chrislyn says, hi. We have us a person, Zadie says hello from Fontecito, Kentucky. Hello,
Hey.
Zadie. Evie has a question. I am a disabled cosplayer too. I wish I had your creativity. I have no idea how to work in my cane with my complaints. Any suggestions?
Oh, I think just take any character that you love, honestly, and just... That's kind of what I did with Cinderella. I was like, man, I love playing princesses, but there's none like me. Like, how can I make this princess like me? And so that's when I came up with the idea for the glass arm. I saw a really cool cosplay. Someone did Link from Zelda, but he decided he had like not wanted to do cosplay either because he's like, I'm in a wheelchair and like there's not really characters in a wheelchair. I don't want to be Professor X all the time. But he ended up doing Zelda or Link from Zelda, and he made his whole wheelchair into that big ship that Link rides in Wind Waker. And it was just so cool. Like, it was the best Link cosplay I'd ever seen. So yeah, just do what you love and then just figure out how to make it fit you, I think is kind of the key.
Now, you grew up obviously with this from birth, right? So you have to adjust. You grow up learning how to deal with it, how to adapt, how to be self-sufficient. You travel the world. You have different jobs. You're working in different things. But now you have a family and a kid. How do you balance staying resilient and still doing things that yourself, but now you have a support system so you can ask for help. You have a little helper that technically you could get to do some stuff for you. Do you still try to sort of, for the most part, do everything on your own by yourself? Or now that you have this support system in place, do you allow yourself to sort of let them help you, ease some of the burden on yourself?
I'm really, really bad about asking for help, to be honest. Like in school, I was always the person in group projects. It was like, I will just do everything. Just let me do this. We're going to get an A. Don't worry. So I still kind of have that problem. I should ask for help more, I think. But I'm such a perfectionist. I'm like, I have the vision in my head and like, I just want to be the person to put it out there. My husband does offer to help a lot. He actually knows how to sew too. His mother-in-law my mother-in-law is an amazing seamstress. And she taught me a lot that I know as well. But yeah, I have a hard time giving up control. Need to work on that.
Well, no, I just feel like obviously you're also teaching your kid, resiliency and stuff like that. Not to necessarily need help, but I would assume it's a balancing act. But if you are just, like you said, stubborn, then I guess you probably only ask for help when you really, really need it, right? Yeah,
I'm pretty bad about that. I have to admit.
Did you? One of the things that I talked to you before we started is that I did some research, and I was sort of looking at representation of people with disabilities, limb difference, in Hollywood films, obviously, since that's kind of like my history. And at first I thought I was only going to find like My Left Foot or, certain sort of films that sort of would stand out. I feel like Hollywood or movies have a tendency to more have success in dealing with mental sort of issues or differences in people versus physical, where like even today in 2020, they're essentially punching down or making a joke out of a limb difference. Did you notice this growing up in terms of, like you said, you didn't see this representation of yourself growing up, but did you notice it in TV shows or movies where they sort of dealt with different issues, but not something that was similar to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely recognize that there were like nobody that I saw in TV or in the movies that was like me. Actually, the only amputee that I ever remember seeing on TV was Jim Abbott, who played baseball. And like, I didn't even care about baseball when I was little. But man, I was so excited. Yeah.
He throw a no-hitter. He would throw the ball, grab his glove, change it.
Grab it and go.
Yeah, he was a beast. Played for
He
the
was
Yankees.
amazing. Like, I love to watch him. I was just so excited to be like, there's somebody like me on the TV. Like, look at that.
And they're good at what they do.
Yeah, and they're good at it. Yeah, exactly. But I didn't really see, I don't remember any women that I saw, especially not that were, portrayed with any kind of strength or beauty or anything like that. There was definitely kind of an absence of role models when I was growing up. I remember being so excited to read a Star Wars book, The Young Jedi Knights, and they had a character in there who loses one of her arms, and then she's just like, Tanel Ka's her name, and she just like keeps kicking butt. Like, she's amazing. She's like the best fighter one-handed in their little group. And that was so meaningful to me to just be like, wow, here's a character who is like me, and they're not some sad sob story, like they're just doing their thing and going on with life. And we need more characters like that.
Skywalker, technically a limb difference.
I feel like part of the problem with characters like Luke is that they fix them so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Character that I would consider to be, an amputee, because, literally Luke has like, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe of holding on, and then he's in the med bay and they're like, oh, look, you're great. It's just wear a glove. It's fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Pay it no mind.
Yeah.
Now, some of the other characters that I found that I started remembering is Junior from Breaking Bad. He has also Drake from Degrassi. You gotta remember him. He was in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
The old TV show Ironside. There's a show called Push Women. Obviously, the movie The Theory of Everything. Somebody just mentioned it in the chat. Peanut Butter Falcon was a recent movie with a Down syndrome actor. The Theory of Everything. And then there's the question of and this is going to part of my sort of ignorant question segment, but then there's the question of, and this is something that we've talked on my podcast before, of opportunities for actors that have either a disability, a limb difference, etc. Because 99% of the roles where they're trying to deal with these issues or trying to portray them are portrayed by able-bodied actors. Yeah. From somebody winning an Oscar, which is one of the greatest actors of our generation, for My Left Foot, to somebody like I forgot the guy from Breaking Bad. Why am I forgetting the name right now? Who played a paraplegic in a film that was remade actually 3 times. Originally a French film, and the discussion, similar to, in the history of Hollywood, is that, Black people couldn't play Black people for a long time. Hispanic people, they would just, blackface. So it would only make sense for Hollywood to be behind and not letting people with disabilities play people with disabilities. The flip side of that is sometimes these movies can't be made unless they attach an A-level actor. And my question to you is, obviously, since this is something that affects you directly, do you see that sort of gray area where you can understand why they're reluctant to do that, or do you just sort of say just kick down the door, just kind of let us in, so to speak, for that?
Yeah, it's it is like you said, it's kind of this double-edged sword where, there's always this kind of joke in Hollywood that if you want an award, like, go play a person with a disability, because a lot of the people that get those are characters with disabilities, but like you said, they're rarely played by a person with a disability. And, I can understand why sometimes, like you said, that they put actors who have big names in there because they think they're not going to be able to really sell it otherwise. But I think the biggest issue is that we as actors who have limb differences don't really get any opportunities to be able to show what we can do. I definitely think you should put people at least in the audition room. That's the first thing we ask. I'm like, just let us audition. That would be super. But I think the other problem is that there's so few characters to even audition for, that's a really big problem. I think ultimately what we would really love to see as actors with disabilities and people with disabilities is to be able to be in these shows and these movies as just a normal person. Like, there's no reason that the teacher that's in one scene can't be in a wheelchair, or why the grocery clerk is missing an arm. You know, there's just no reason that we can't be seeing more people in regular roles. And if we were able to be in those regular roles, then as an extension, we would be able to get the credits to our name that might allow us to actually play the occasional big character that comes along for a person with a disability.
I think that the narrative that I believe is that obviously I'm a filmmaker, and at the end of the day, a film is your art. So at the end of the day, you're going to put the people in your movie that you want. The way I sort of address it myself in my films is that, like you said, I have to at least be open to the possibility that there is somebody with this affliction or whatever that I'm writing into my script that can come in and audition and that I can consider for the role. And as long as I think that I'm open to that, then I feel that I'm providing an open environment for people to come in and participate in, who I can collaborate and who I can learn from, who I can be surprised by. The side obviously is saying that if I am a paraplegic, for example, the only role that I am going to be able to play, for the most part, that I'm going to be able to come out for is the role of the paraplegic. So in that essence, then it's like, you know, Hollywood should make an effort to sort of be more inclusive and find these people and give them a chance, because if maybe you find a star for one of the supporting roles instead or something like that, right? That's the other side of it.
Yeah, well, you know, I think it's just one of those things where, you know, I think we do have to make an effort to some degree, because we all have an unconscious bias. You know, we talk about that with like race a lot, but it also has to do with disabilities. You know, if nobody ever looked for, you know, people who are minorities to just be in the world, and even in just the background of the film's worlds, you know, I think they had to make a conscious effort to do that. In order to start expanding, to be like, oh, well, they could be side characters. Oh, they could be a main character. Look at that. And so it's the same thing with people with disabilities. I think you do sometimes have to be like, hey, like, can we put one person with a disability in this movie anywhere? Like even if they're just sitting in the cafe, and to realize that, you know, okay, it's not a distraction for a person to be in a wheelchair back here, or it's not going to change who this character is if they have a limb difference. Like, let's just go for it.
No, absolutely. And like I said, it's the exact same thing that happened with African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, gay and lesbian characters, you know, except where now we're asking. The other flip side of that is that I still believe that acting as a profession needs to be not, hopefully they stop attacking acting, but realize that it is a viable art form to try to not necessarily mimic, but embody the presence, the character of somebody that is different from yourself. So I just don't want to get it to the point where if you're casting the film, the only person that can play this character has to be somebody, if it's a gay character, that is gay, that's this. As long as you're opening up the possibility for casting and reaching out to people and trying to collaborate with them, I just don't, you know, that's kind of the side as a filmmaker where I'm like, let's not just destroy acting as a possibility for people. Do you see that side of it as well?
I do. And like I said, I think just the first step really that anyone's asking is just let us in the audition room. Because, you know, I understand that, you know, you're probably not going to hire me if you want some like 50-year-old rugged war veteran. Like I don't look like that. I know that. That's okay. But, you know, if you're looking for, you know, a young teacher, you know, like, just consider us, especially if you want the character to have a disability. I think you need to make sure that you invite people with disabilities to at least audition. And if they don't fit it, if they don't have the skills you're looking for, then, you know, that's obviously a different story.
All right, absolutely. And then my final ignorant question, because like I said, I sometimes want to make sure that I get stuff out that starts a conversation. Is there a point? Obviously, we want people that have limb differences, that are differently able, that have different afflictions, to be able to do pretty much anything that they want, right? I mean, Stephen Hawking's have shown us, you know, a human mind is an incredible thing. Is there anything to be said for friends and family or people that surround somebody with any specific sort of disability, for them to maybe say, well, like for example, I'm 42 years old. I've almost come to grips with the fact that I'm not going to be point guard for the New York Knicks. I mean, I finally kind of understand that, like that's my limitation. Is it fair for people to put limitations on people with disabilities if it even is in their own mind, saying, you might not necessarily be able to accomplish this, but there's a million other things that you could do. Is there any truth to that at all, or do you think it has to be like an open range of just let's just let people dream about being anything, even if realistically it might not something that's possible for them?
Well, I don't think we should put limitations on people just because they have a disability. But, I think everyone has limitations. Like you said, you're probably not going to play football. Like, I'm not going to play basketball, and my amazing Marine husband is like never going to become a professional singer, bless his heart. So I think the best thing to do is treat people like disabilities as you would any other person. It's like, what are their strengths? What are they good at? Encourage them in those things. And, people will kind of find their own limitations, like you realize at some point that it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to become the world's next Picasso. Like this looks just, these stick people aren't working out. And so I don't think we should automatically put people
have to realize it themselves then, right? It's nobody's place to put something in front of you as a roadblock and say, hey, you know what, can you think about something else that's more realistic? Because that's the whole thing about your parents telling you art school.
Yeah, but just in general, I just don't feel like we should discourage people from doing what they love anyway. Some of the best advice I've ever had was the things that are really worth doing are worth doing badly. So like, to me, it's like, whatever you're passionate about, like do it because it makes you happy, not necessarily because you think you're going to be the most amazing person ever at it. Because honestly, very few of us are ever going to be at the top of our craft, no matter what it is. So I think we just do what makes us happy and just go from there.
Absolutely. And again, I just want to ask some ignorant questions to talk about stuff that people think about, but that they don't necessarily want to say. And Mandy's kind enough to not be like, you're so stupid, Lou, shut up.
Well, I can't promise I won't say that, but we'll see.
All right, hopefully the questions weren't too ignorant. Okay.
No.
Now let me catch up real quick with the chat. Chris Lynn says I can't use a sewing machine. I almost broke it. That happens. Trust me.
Like, it's okay. You know your limitations, but you know what? If it makes you happy to try anyway, just keep going.
Evie says that responding to your response. That's awesome. Thank you. You're an inspiration. Thank you for tuning in, Evie. I'm glad you are feeling good. Peanut Butter Falcon. Yes, we talked about that. The guy. I think they should create princesses with disabilities. That's what she's doing. That's specifically what Mandy does.
Yeah.
Or Lynn Difference. Descendants had an extra in a wheelchair. Well, I guess that's a start. Kind of like what they did with A Quiet Place, where they hired a deaf actor to play a deaf character. They also recently did that in The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Where they had the deaf actors play the mantas or whatever they were.
The Tusken Raiders. Yeah.
Tusken Raiders. Yeah.
But that added so much to the story, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a real deaf person who was really creating a sign language.
And then Christopher says, if someone says limitations for you, just smash that wall down and prove them wrong. Yes, Christopher.
That's what I have a class arm for.
That's what she has. All right, cool. And Jenny says, I play the flute. The hardest part is the end. The sound comes out as is the ear. I'm deaf in, so I can't hear if I'm not in tune.
But see, we have tuners. There's like ways to get around that. So it's awesome. Good job.
Right, and then Kristlyn says, you're always an expression. Thank you everybody for commenting so far. I appreciate it. Now, the other part of that is the American with Disabilities Act, because that's something that's been around for a while. But in essence, one of the things that gets lost in it is that not only when somebody comes to apply to a job or works at a job, do they have to make allowances for them in terms of ramps and stuff like that. There's a part of it that's not really discussed a lot, which is incentivizing people to look for jobs within their companies that can be done by people that are differently able. So, if you're a warehouse or a machine company, your data entry could be done by somebody in a wheelchair or that's homebound, et cetera, like that. So do you feel that Hollywood should and cosplay and comics and different things like that should find what avenues to reach out to people like this to bring them into the fold, to give them opportunities, maybe sets up, competitions for different sort of cosplays like that, things like that.
Yeah, well, I think kind of the ADA and the workplace and representation in Hollywood are kind of two different topics that I probably have slightly different opinions on. But I do think to some degree that, Hollywood should, try to reach out and find people who have talent that are able to do these things. And they do. I think it's ABC that has a ABC Discovers, I think it's called, kind of a little competition every year. And it's mostly focused on minorities, but they do include people with disabilities in that search as well. And I think that's great. I also got to go up to Universal Studios. They did kind of a casting call specifically to just get people with disabilities, just generally kind of in front of some casting directors to show that we are capable. And that was a really great experience to be able to talk to people. So I think they are to some degree. And I really appreciate the people who are reaching out and saying, hey, this is a demographic that's really missing from our movies and our shows. And there's a lot of them out there. Like I said, there's 2 million amputees. I think 1 in 4 adults have some kind of a disability. I mean, that includes mental disabilities as well. But, there's a lot of people out there who have some form of a disability, and we just really aren't seeing that kind of representation that matches that on the screen. So.
Absolutely. And Chrislyn follows up that with saying, you're always an inspiration. And Christopher says, Big Chief, thank you for helping spread the inspiration she gives us all. Absolutely.
Yes,
I want to do my part. And I even tried to make sure that, one of the first things I asked you when we talked about, because you told me, was it the Newsweek story with that
they call me the armless woman. And I was like, I mean, I have one, so.
What were you? You were like the one-handed man from The Fugitive. What what were they thinking? So I kind of I checked in with you, make sure, like, how can I promote this without making it sound like too clickbaity? We talk about limb issues or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, people with disabilities, I find usually aren't super sensitive because, I mean, we've dealt with so much like genuinely bad stuff from people that, if you're trying to say the right thing and you mess up, we're not going to be like, oh, right. Why would you say that? As long as you don't say things that are, purposely derogatory, I think people are generally pretty cool about it.
Right. Do you still get that sort of like visceral reaction from people? Do you catch people like in your day-to-day that are just kind of like a double take and stuff like that? Do you just let them go along their way, or do you try to educate them, for lack of a better word?
It depends on the situation. I do catch people that stare a lot because I haven't been wearing my prosthetic as much out in public. I used to wear it when I was younger to kind of like look more normal. Honestly, I felt like if I just looked like everybody else, people wouldn't look at me weird. And I've gained a lot of confidence recently, and I'm like, I don't need it. I feel more comfortable as myself sometimes without wearing a heavy prosthetic. But people do stare because it's different to look at. Or sometimes I get derogatory comments. Unfortunately, I'm an adult, but I still have kids that are like, "Ew, your arm is creepy." And so if someone says something negative, specifically like that, I will take time to educate and just be like, hey, so let's talk about how your words made me feel and how that would feel, if someone said that to you or someone that you loved or. So I try to take some time if I have the chance to, just kind of talk to people and just try to make the world, I guess, a little bit better place, because I think a lot of the negative comments honestly do come from ignorance. Like, people haven't seen it before and they don't know how to react to it. And if I can educate people to keep kids from having to educate people as a child, like I had to do, like that's something that I want to try to do.
Yeah, no, I completely understand, because I've been taking care of or part of the team that takes care of a 5.5-year-old child with autism, nonverbal. And, I to me, he's like the most normal kid in the world or what have you, but I take him out and he runs around and he has these kind of tics and stuff like that. And I catch other kids sort of like looking at him and stuff like that. And I'm just like, wait a minute, I'm I can't punch an 8-year-old in the head. I can't do that, even though nobody's watching. There's no. I can't punch this 8-year-old in the kid. So sometimes like, hey, why is he doing that? And I'll be just like, well, he's got autism. His brain works a little bit different than yours, stuff like that. And they're just like, oh. But for the most part, the kids are who's going to save us, obviously. So I feel that in some cases they're almost the ones that sort of can take a look at something like that and sort of, if you take the time to just educate them or just explain to them what they're seeing, that they might. What is it like when you met that girl that had the same affliction? How was it kind of transposing yourself to knowing that you didn't have that role model when you were a kid? How does that weigh on you? Like, the pressure of that representation?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that very strongly, and I try to do a good job with being a positive role model, because I want to be the kind of person that I really wish I had when I was a kid, and so I try to just be positive, and it's been a good experience, I think, though, overall, to be able to play that role. And I just hope that when kids see my stuff, the little girl that kind of started it all, and other kids, that they're just like, hey, I can do this cool stuff too. I can be the hero of the story. I can go on adventures. I can have my love story. And it's just normal. These are things that you can totally do in your life.
You mentioned that you have different opinions about the ADA. Do you feel that it doesn't go far enough? Do you ever get political about stuff like that? Is there like a movement to sort of enhance it or replace it with something else?
I tend to not get super political about things, but I do try to educate and speak out about things if there's a problem. I think a lot of people look at the ADA and they think, oh, you're just making us do this and that. But they really haven't taken time to think about what it's like to be in somebody different. I've grown up with a disability of a sort, but when I broke my foot about 2 years ago, when I was in a wheelchair, it was like a whole other world. I had no idea how inaccessible so many places were. It was just mind blowing. And I am more aware of those things, and I think a lot of people are. So I think the ADA is really important, and I would just encourage people to keep an open mind, because things that the ADA is asking people to do really are the difference between people being able to go out and go to work, or go to school even, or just to be part of society, which I think everybody should have the chance to do.
Absolutely. Just wanted to make sure, because you had mentioned that and I just noticed that we dropped it, but I wanted to double back with you. In terms of cosplay, I've been talking to people that have been featured artists at Comic-Con and kind of what their thoughts are on the future of a post-COVID Comic-Con. Obviously, hopefully by next year when it comes around, all this pandemic stuff is done with, or there's a vaccine or whatever it is, that there's an ability. But do you feel that there'll ever be a 80,000 people cheek to cheek on a Saturday morning in San Diego? Do you think it's realistic for us to expect a traditional Comic-Con, or do you think they'll have to limit the number of tickets, do something like that?
I mean, next year, I'm not exactly sure how things are going to go. I think it does depend on how successful the vaccine is, or if we get better treatments for COVID. I hope that there's regular Comic-Con again. I really missed all my conventions this year, and just, being with people and getting to, geek out about your favorite shows and movies. It's not quite the same experience online, even though I think they did as good as they could have with a bad situation.
Did you are you going to make a commitment to come to San Diego Comic-Con, or are you going to move on to Dragon Con in Atlanta or one of the East Coast cons?
Yeah, well, I definitely I have never been to Dragon Con, so I'm really excited that I'm closer and I can go check that out. I want to hit Gen Con again next year, but I'd also really, really love to come back to San Diego. That was my first convention, and that one's always going to kind of be my favorite, I think.
All right. And just so people don't think that the only thing that you do is a cosplay, where I met Mandy was when I cast her in a project that I was doing with my friend Ty in a little short called Zombies. I will warn everybody, I'm going to play this clip. You might want to turn your volume down. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that because the music in it is kind of high. But here's Mandy in another role you may not have seen her in. Getting your zombie on there.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
And then I was able to find the clip here that we have. I want to show people your transformation, and here it is so we can watch it. Bam!
Yay!
Ooh! That is some high quality engineering right there.
Well, thank you.
So you basically had to design two separate outfits, figure out how to make them work together, connect them via some sort of apparatus, and then do your thing.
And then take it off with one hand seamlessly.
It's
no big deal. No big deal.
No big thing. What kind of opportunities? I mean, I know you're on the East Coast now, so it's probably a little bit different. But what kind of opportunities would arise for you as an actor with a limb difference? Was it mostly, like I said, hey, we can chop her arm off in a movie? Was it mostly what are the main things that would be presented to you?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time it was horror. So it was zombies. I did Elevator, where my arm got chopped off in multiple ways. I did The Bad Batch, which also was an amputee because of the cannibals. So that tended to be a lot of the roles that I was able to audition for. A lot of the other amputee roles tend to be like veteran, some kind of like, Paralympic athlete, which is not me in any way, shape, or form. I didn't get any of those roles. So there's nothing wrong with those roles in any way. Like, I really enjoy, honestly, doing the zombies and the horror sometimes. I think it's kind of like a fun way to incorporate your limb difference. But it would be nice, I think, to also have roles where I'm just a regular person that, has lines. That would be great.
Yeah, I guess what anybody with this disability, and it's similar to what people gay and lesbian community, African American, Latino community wanted from Hollywood back in the day, is we don't just want to play mobsters and gangsters and drug addicts and maids and the gay best friend, or the lesbian that chasing Amy that he's trying to convert. They want to just be characters that happen to be X, Y, or Z. So I think, and the history of Hollywood is one where there's been Oscars won in films that prominently display people with limb differences. But there's also been movies where they've been pretty much exploited, and it's sort of gone from series to series, Hollywood era to Hollywood era, how the representation has changed. It is sad that in 2020, where we're supposed to be more woke, something happened like in this movie Witches. Shame on you. But are you mostly, despite that, are you mostly positive about the future? Obviously, you are playing an active role in it. So, have you basically taken the future in your own hands?
Yeah, I can definitely see from when I was a kid, things have gotten a lot better. There's a lot more people with limb differences and all different kinds of disabilities that are more visible in the media or even social media, like I have been with Cinderella. And that was kind of the motivation behind Cinderella. It was kind of like, if you don't see characters that you want to see, like, make your own characters. You have to be part of the change that you want to see. And, even though Cinderella isn't part of, a big blockbuster movie or anything, I think it shows that, you know, you can look at Cinderella and her limb difference is a part of her. It's part of her story. But at the same time, she didn't need some elaborate backstory to be like, whoa, how did she lose her arm? And how is she overcoming that? Like, you just look at it and you know the story. And she's just a normal girl who's, you know, does the same things almost as in the original story. And you just instinctively know that. And so I think it's a good example of how Hollywood, you know, is able to do disabilities in a positive way. And I think if they keep seeing examples of how to do it the right way, hopefully they'll catch on and get on board with that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's similar to, like I said, you know, I looked around and we had writing partners. My co-creator is African-American of Tui and Burrito. And, you know, it's like, well, if we're not getting the opportunities to write and direct these films, then let's just make them ourselves.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
you know, so I applaud you, obviously, for going out there. Thank you, everybody that's commented and watched so far. Just catching you guys up. I'm talking with Mandy Pursley. Have they named you like the one-armed Cinderella, or is there like a virtual name for what your character has become, or is it just or no?
I think basically if you search Cinderella with a glass arm, it's just like everywhere. So that's just kind of what I'm going with.
I would say Spinderella, but that name is taken by the DJ for Salt and Pepper, so we can't do that. If you want to know more about Mandy, follow her on Facebook, mostly at Be The Spark Cosplay. Thank you, everybody that's watched and commented so far. My name is Lou Martinez, Big Chief Burrito. Make sure you are liking and following Facebook.com/Tui and Burrito for when we go live with these interviews. If you're on Twitch, we're there too. Twitch.tv/Tui and Burrito. YouTube, you can watch some of my old movies on youtube.com/Tui and Burrito. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I also want to start doing something here. You're going to give us a second here, Mandy, is where I'd like to promote some of my friends' companies until the big money comes in. So I just want you guys, anybody in San Diego specifically, check out that beautiful fireplace there. That's my boy, Alex. He's got a company where it's called Custom Creations by Alexander. He does custom tile work. Long waiting line, but if you are a baller and you need some decent tile work, go to Custom Creations by Alexander. I also have a friend in Hawaii. Her name is Michelle. They do custom wood decals. They do hats. They do embroidery. They do a lot of cool stuff. They have an Etsy shop. Etsy shop, right? Is that what I'm supposed to say? Etsy shop, and it is M&K Custom Designs, custom with a K Designs. I'll link that in the video as well so you guys can check out. And I'm just doing this because we got to support small businesses during a pandemic. So shout out to all my friends that have businesses, and I'm just trying to give them a little push, a little nudge in case anybody in Hawaii wants some stuff. They ship all over the US, and in case anybody in Southern California needs some custom tile work, hit up those companies. Let's catch up here with the comments. Zadie says, Mandy has loving parents that I feel like has helped her, but we know that all children don't have that support. Exactly. That's why it's important that they see it represented in popular culture, right?
Exactly.
And Mariah says, it would be amazing to see Mandy come down to the Texas Renaissance Festival when COVID is over.
That would be awesome. I love Renaissance festivals. That was actually where I made my first costumes. I kind of started with historical clothing, so we could go to the Ren Fair all dressed up.
What would be if you were gonna say, like, all right, I want to do another sort of kind of different style on a popular character? Have you started thinking about that at all? Would you pick something in a different genre altogether? Would you stay in the Disney princess, or what's your thought process on that?
So I really love dressing up like a princess. Okay. That's kind of where I've been my main focus, but we may branch out eventually. But I've actually been working on a steampunk version of Belle.
Oh my God, you said the word. Oh.
Yes. So I'm super excited. And Gilbert Lozano, who made my glass arm, he's making a prosthetic for that one too. So I'm really, really excited.
I was going to say anything but steampunk. But
I love steampunk. No.
Oh my God. I can't stand steampunk.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I also for you, I'd also love to do a version of Snow White, but like not wear any prosthetic. Because I think kind of the message with that is like, you know, Snow White's the fairest in the land, right? So there's no reason why she can't have a limb difference and still be that kind of person. So
did you ever, and did you ever hear of a character called Phantom Limb from the Venture Brothers TV show?
I don't think so. I'll have to look that one up.
Okay, so because the reason that I think it's interesting is because he's a guy that is missing. I'll put up a picture just so you can kind of see what he looks like. This is Phantom Limb. Will it come up? No, it won't come up. So basically, you can kind of tell that he's got okay, but he's just a bad guy, and they don't necessarily ever mention the fact that he has that. But his appendages are like electric, right? So he can do all kinds of stuff with it, which is cool. But he just is a guy. His name is Phantom Limb, and they never explain it, or I think they do give him a backstory at some point. But he's just there. That just happens to be his name. It just happens to be. So I just thought it was an interesting sort of cosplay idea.
You know what? A good one would be Sue Storm, but like using the glass arm, like she's starting to go invisible. I think that would be fun. So I might have to do that.
And then anything like war related, or like maybe if it was like a steampunk Mad Max thing, where you had like some like flamethrower attachments or something like that. Then I'm jumping on board with like.
Yeah, I did do Furiosa one year at Comic-Con. Okay. Yeah, and had her prosthetic. It was pretty cool. But I don't look very good bald, so I don't know if I pulled that one off. I just have like this round face, so it just didn't work. But
I don't either. I guess do you like obviously you've met all these people. What have you learned about yourself during the process? Obviously, you're living sort of a basic life. You're married. You have a kid. You're going through life. You're doing films here and there, productions. This hits. Your recognition goes way up. Have you gotten recognized on the street? Have you felt like have you had a diva moment? And what have you learned from yourself? I apologize about the 3-part question. Answer any part that you want. But what have you learned about yourself during this time?
So I have not been recognized on the street. So if you recognize me on the street and say anything nice to me, I will be so excited. So please say hi if you ever see me. That would just completely make my entire life. So I don't think I've really had a diva moment, I don't think. But I think, become more confident in myself. That's taken a while because when I was younger, honestly, I didn't always have the best self-confidence. Able to just kind of appreciate myself. And like through this, I've honestly learned to even more appreciate the way that I was born. Because, I see that if I had been born with 2 arms and just wore a pretty dress, that wouldn't be anything special. Like nobody in this world would care that I was another girl in a pretty dress dressing up like a princess. But the fact that I have a limb difference actually allowed me to stand out in a really good way and to, I think, impact the world in a positive way. And so I think just being able to appreciate that, good things can come from any circumstance. If you just learn to kind of embrace it and make it work. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned about myself, that I can do that. So it's been good.
All right, but no diva moments, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Don't ask my husband. He might give you a different answer.
Now, obviously, when you guys met, and I think this goes back to people with a disability, differently able, people with a limb difference want to be, at the end of the day, treated like you would treat nobody else. Like they don't want you to be afraid to argue with them or disagree with them or feel that you have to, not speak your mind with them. Did any of that come into play when you guys met? Did he just basically treat you like any other girl? Did you guys have that conversation right away? How did that manifest?
Well, I think I knew that he was really special because he didn't make any big deal about it at all. One of the jokes I always had when I was dating was that, being limb different was a really good jerk filter, because if they were people you didn't want to date, like they didn't want to date you, so I didn't have to deal with them. Right. But when I met Ryan, he was just awesome. Like he just treated me like a regular person. He didn't act like I needed lots of help, even if I didn't. you know, he didn't feel sorry for me. He was just like, you know, hey, you're cute. Let's flirt. And it was good. So he flew me out. We actually we met at a wedding, and then he got my number and ended up for our first date. I was living in Florida and he was in California, and he flew me out to the Marine Corps ball, and he bought me a diamond necklace, and we went horseback riding, and I was sold. It was good.
All right. Making the rest of us look bad. All right. Okay. All right. Well, Mandy, obviously, like I said, I'm glad that you took the time to talk with me today. Like I said, obviously, I've been having conversations with people from all walks of life, and the goal is to, number one, have a cool conversation with somebody, because, you know, human contact is important. I was following along your plight when you got sick at Comic-Con, and I was kind of like, wow, she's about to reveal this thing, and I was sad that didn't work for you. I was doubly happy and proud of you when you found this little piece of fame and used it not just for yourself and for likes, but actually turned that around to try to use it to help other people. So I think you're a genuinely very good person, and I wish you nothing but the best in terms of your cosplay, your film career, your life with your family.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we met too. Thanks for letting me be your zombie so many years ago.
And, you know, and I look forward to casting you in a film at some point where you're just a regular ass person. So
yeah, I'll just be sitting in the cafe drinking my coffee. It'll be great.
That just means one last thing to do, and everybody knows that watches the show, is that I do a bracket bit where I make the guests pick one or the other in a bracket style tournament. And since Mandy loves Star Wars and Mandy loves princesses, our bracket is going to be Star Wars characters versus Disney princesses.
Oh, this is going to be hard.
So I'm going to give you one Disney. Well, the first round is Disney princess versus Star Wars character, and it's going to move as a bracket. So I'm going to put up the bracket right now so you can see it right there. There it is. But I'm only going to show you the first part here. So number one, you just got to tell me who you pick. Who's moving on to the next round? Luke Skywalker or Princess Vanellope from Wrecking Ralph?
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker, all right. Finn or Cinderella?
I mean, obviously Cinderella.
All right, Cinderella. That sets up a crazy second round. The Yodas, all right, so...
Baby Yoda?
Yeah, this is the Yodas. So this is both regular and Baby Yoda versus Moana.
Sorry, Moana. Got to go with the Yodas.
All right. Kylo Ren or Snow White?
Snow White.
All right. Jyn Erso or Tiana?
Oh, that's a really tough one.
That's a tough first round matchup. And if you want to expand on any of these characters in terms of what you like about them or anything, feel free.
Yeah. I mean, I love Jyn because she's just like, she's so strong and she's adventurous, and I just really identify with her a lot. But
they need to give her a prequel. They need to give her a prequel TV show like The Mandalorian. I said it.
They do, absolutely, 100%. But Tiana is also like, dude, she's a career woman and she's got it going.
Exactly.
Man, I think I personally identify with.
Side note. Once I went into the deeps of the internet for this bracket, I realized how big of a fight there is between what is and isn't considered a Disney princess. And I just was like, I don't want to know about it. I just needed to find some names for the bracket, but.
Oh man, I think I personally identify with Jyn a little bit more, so I'm going to go with
All right, Jyn Erso, the fighter moves on. Leia.
She's a Disney princess now, right? Because it's her kind of.
Yeah, pretty much. Leia or Giselle, that's the next matchup here.
I'm going to go with Leia, man. She was one of my favorites.
All right, so we're bracketing R2 and BB-8, and we're putting them against Merida.
Merida.
Merida, sorry.
Oh, man, I'm going to go with Merida with this because I just love that she's just like crazy.
All right, so another matchup in the first round, C-3PO versus Mulan.
Sorry, robots. I love Mulan.
All right. Belle versus Poe Dameron.
Belle. Sorry, Poe.
All right. The Disney's princesses are taking the lead here. Jasmine versus Han Solo, another major matchup.
Oh my gosh, that's so hard. Jasmine was always one of my favorite princesses, but I think I'm going to go with Han here.
Han Solo moves on. Boba and Mando, Boba Fett and the Mandalorian versus Pocahontas.
Oh my gosh, I loved Boba Fett. I don't know why. He wasn't even in it that much, but he was
No,
just
he's
like
in there for 2 seconds, becomes iconic.
the coolest character in the whole series.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Boba Fett.
Boba Fett and the Mandalorian
And
move on.
throw him in there.
Lando or Sleeping Beauty?
Ooh, Lando.
Lando. Sleeping Beauty out in the first round in an upset. Lando.
She just like lays there most of the time.
Yeah, she's basically, that was the thing I read. She's in there for like 17 minutes. The rest of the time she's taking a nap. Rapunzel or Padme? Padme could be on either side because she's also technically a princess.
That's true. I'm gonna go with Rapunzel. She's just like so sweet and fun. I love her.
And Rey, and this is our first animated animal character, Nala from The Lion King.
Well, let's go with Rey.
All right, Chewbacca or Ariel?
Oh my gosh, Chewbacca. I love Chewbacca. Right. He's so hairy.
And then we combined Anna and Elsa versus Anakin and Darth Vader.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Anna and Elsa because I'm very much like Anna. I'm just she's.
All right, Megan. All right, second round goes by faster. Chewie or Anna and Elsa?
Anna and Elsa.
All right, Rapunzel or Rey?
Rapunzel.
Lando or Mando?
Let's go with Mando.
Boba and Mando move on. Han Solo or Belle?
Belle.
All right. Merida or Mulan?
Mulan. It's my girl.
Jean Orso or Leia? That's a tough one.
That's really hard. I think, Leia was one of just those strong women from my childhood, so I'm going to go with her.
All right. The Yodas or Snow White?
Baby Yoda. That's my heart.
Baby Yoda. This is a tough one. Luke Skywalker or Cinderella?
Sorry, Luke. Cinderella's got to win.
Cinderella versus Baby Yoda.
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's so hard. I don't know.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Oh my! I'm gonna I'm gonna betray myself and go with Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda takes out Cinderella.
I don't know if that was right.
Oh, too late now. You've made a choice. We gotta respect the bracket. Leia or Mulan?
Leia. Let's go with Leia.
All right. Setting up the final four here, we have Belle versus Boba Fett and Mando.
Belle.
We have Rapunzel versus Anna and Elsa.
Rapunzel.
And the final four, the Yodas, Leia, Belle, and Rapunzel. Let's take the top layer first. The Yodas, Baby and OG, and Leia.
Oh, I gotta go with Leia.
Leia takes it to the final, and she's gonna go up against either Belle or Rapunzel.
Oh man, I love Belle because she loves to read, but I love Rapunzel's adventurous spirit. I'm gonna go with Rapunzel.
Rapunzel, setting up our final. Who would have thought? Princess Leia versus Rapunzel. We ended up with two princesses, one Star Wars character.
I think that's a really fitting end to this bracket. I feel like it. I'm gonna go with Leia because she was not just a princess; she was a general, and she gets some extra points for that.
And she had the Force on her side, so
she did, and she was a Jedi. She was just the best.
Although the whole Force thing where she was out of the spaceship and then she levitated back in, that was just
I'll agree with that one.
Yeah, that was a little bit but hey, the winner, Princess Leia, taking on all challengers. I hope you enjoyed that bracket bit, everybody.
That was fun.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Follow her on Be the Spark Cosplay. Representation matters for people that are differently able, to have disabilities, have lived differences. If you're a filmmaker, put them in your movie, or at least consider auditioning them for other roles. Treat them like every other person. I've learned a lot today, Mandy.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you for taking the time to come on the show. Like I said, I wish you nothing but the best. And I want to thank everybody that stopped by. We had a lot of comments. We had a lot of participation. Thank you, everybody that stopped by. Hopefully you guys follow me so that you can see other interviews that I do with other people from other walks of life. But this has been Fireside Chats with Big Chief Burrito, with my girl, Shy Girl, napping through the entire interview in the background. She hasn't moved an inch. She's been napping the entire time. Whether I do the interviews at 5 p.m. or 8 p.m., she's always sleeping. Thank you for watching. Christopher, thank you for being part of it. Thank you, everybody that showed up. This is Big Chief Burrito, and we are out. Thank you, Mandy.
Bye. Thanks.
Take it easy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.